because God is still in the midst of all of this. I'm so honored to be here with all of you today to stand in this most important time in our history. And as Pastor Sim said, that we're here to talk about the law itself, because until we challenge that, there is no peace and justice in America. And as we cross the State Street Bridge today, I am reminded of those who crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge marching from Selma, state capital in Montgomery, Alabama, about 50 years ago, in what is known as Bloody Sunday. And while we may not have been attacked with dogs and fire hoses like those brave and determined souls encountered back then, but still today, we find ourselves marching in the pursuit of justice and equality. And so let us march on in the pursuit of justice and equality, and to petition the government for the redress of grievances. So in the spirit on the march from Selma to Montgomery, and in the spirit of the march on Washington and all other marches before now, and in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and Fannie Lou Hamer, Edgar Evers, Emmett Till, and now Trayvon Martin, we must always speak out for justice for Trayvon Martin and for more responsible gun legislation, and against shoot first and stand your ground laws, such as Pennsylvania's expanded national doctrine. I don't think many in this audience understand the impact of the recently expanded national doctrine law that Pennsylvania legislators passed a year ago. People were silent. There was no marches in the street, which is what has got us here today, which only leads to a greater homicide, which resulted in the killing of Trayvon Martin. Trayvon's death must also spur us to possess the courage and resolve to eliminate this destructive shoot first and stand your ground laws. Result in dangerous vandalism and reckless and violent gun. Prior to Governor Portman's signing of the legislation into law last year, Pennsylvania and nearly all other states allowed citizens to take force if necessary in their home. New laws, state laws, deadly force is permissible. Other things, such as a car or a public street, does not require that person to retreat before shooting. Now consider, if you will, the dire statistics which show that in states that enacted shoot first and stand your ground laws between 2005 and 2007, there has generally been a marked increase in homicides considered justifiable. Consider the following well. A Wall Street Journal analysis found that states which passed shoot first laws experienced an increase in justifiable homicides for more than 50% in the years following the passage, whereas states that did not change their self-defense laws experienced little change during that period. In other words, they found more justifiable homicides against African-American men when they passed these shoot-first laws than they did in those states that did not even touch such a law. The Urban Institute analyzed FBI data from 2005 to 2009 and found that whereas 7.2% of reported homicides in non-shoot-first states were deemed justifiable, a full 13% of homicides in shoot-first states were deemed justifiable, nearly twice the number. I think, and I would like to think, that we are a better people, a better state, and a better country than to accept such troubling, alarming statistics. And we must appeal to our better humanity, as well as our common sense. When it comes to responsible and rational gun behavior, it is time that we do everything we can to address gun violence and in our culture, in our communities, and throughout this country. As mayor, I have been a strong advocate of tougher measures of those who possess guns illegally and sell them illegally. I also joined a broad coalition of civic leaders to bring attention to the impact of shoot-first laws, and I will continue to work to eliminate them. So I hope you stand firm and join me and all others who are all about getting rid of this horrible law that only benefits those of non-color. So that we do not have our children, like Trayvon Martin, an unarmed teenager who was merely walking home from a neighborhood store with a bag of Skittles and iced tea drink in his hand, who fell victim to utter misguided and narrow gun laws and violence. We must, as Attorney General Eric Holder recently stated in addressing the NAACP's convention in Orlando, Florida, earlier this week, that we must stand our ground on the issue of gun violence. and work collectively to ensure that our laws are designed to reduce violence, not enhance it, not to encourage it, and not to contribute to more violence in our neighborhoods. So in addition to lending our collective voices by calling on the United States Department of Justice to open a civil rights investigation against George Zimmerman, we are also today calling on our state legislature and legislators to eliminate the shoot first laws, which in addition to Pennsylvania and Florida are in roughly 24 states today. We must continue to remain vigilant and not allow Trayvon Martin's death to be in vain. For it could have been your son, it could have been your nephew, it could have been your grandson. And there can and will be other children like Trayvon if we remain silent and not speak out on these critical issues. We must first continue to work to ensure that every child has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we will not stop until Dr. King declared justice rolls down like the river and righteousness like the flood of flowing stream. Now I want to say this in closing. You have seen me on the front line about gun violence in our community. And I have been unafraid to speak to power. And I've been unafraid to speak to us. And I am calling on every individual out there who bears a gun illegally, that in the name and the sake of Trayvon Martin, put your guns away. Find an incinerator, find a dumpster, and put your guns away. I don't care how bad the conflict may get with you. You don't need to use a gun to kill another man. You see, when they went on the national circuit after the verdict, many on the opposition said, well, how do you explain they got 594 murders in Chicago, black on black crime? They also said the same thing about Atlanta, who has 491 crimes of black males shooting each other. Not to mention our very own crimes here in Harrisburg, where African Americans males killing each other. Let's not forget that we do pursue them too and put them in jail when they do